It was a typical night patrol on Highway 64, that road that cuts through the interior of Tennessee and is practically deserted at night. I was alone in the patrol car, as always, listening to the radio crackling occasionally with distant calls from other units. Nothing special, just me, the road, and the heavy silence you feel when it's past midnight and the world seems to have switched off. Then I saw her, an old car, a grey sedan that must have been from the 90s, driving way too slowly. Like 40 miles per hour on a highway where everyone else does 70, hazard lights on. The car was swaying a little between lanes, nothing too serious, but enough to make me turn on the blue and red lights and tell her to pull over. It took a good 30 seconds for the car to stop completely on the shoulder. I noted the license plate, radioed my location, and got out of the patrol car with my flashlight in hand. Basic protocol. I approached slowly, illuminating the interior of the vehicle. Through the rear window, there was only one person inside. When I got to the driver's side window, she was already crying. It wasn't the discreet crying people try to hide when they're pulled over. It was a violent, desperate cry, the kind that makes your whole body tremble. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles were white. Disheveled brown hair fell across her face. She wore normal clothes, jeans, and a slightly crumpled white blouse. She must have been in her early 30s, maybe younger. Hard to tell with her face so wet with tears and distorted like that. I tapped lightly on the window, and she took a while to react. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were empty. I can't quite explain it. It was as if she was looking through me, not at me. I made the universal roll down the window sign, and she obeyed, but continued holding the steering wheel. "Good evening, ma'am," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. "Are you all right? I noticed you were driving a little slowly and with your hazard lights on." She didn't answer. She just stared at me with those dead eyes and kept crying. I tried again. "I need you to turn off the car and show me your driver's license and vehicle registration. Is that all right?" This time she shook her head, but not in negation. It was more of a mechanical nod, as if she were trying to convince herself of something. She let go of the steering wheel with her right hand and pointed to the passenger seat. I looked and didn't see anything immediately, just a bag thrown there. "Is it in the bag?" I asked. She nodded, but didn't move to get it. I stood there waiting a few seconds until I realized she wasn't going to do anything. So I opened the back door myself and leaned over to get the bag, keeping the flashlight pointed at her the whole time. When I returned to the driver's side window, she had stopped crying. Completely. Her face was still wet, but the sound had stopped suddenly. That made me more alert. I opened my purse and took out the wallet. Her name was Sarah Mitchell, address in Knoxville, about 50 miles away. The photo on the wallet matched her, but the woman in the photo looked different, more alive. She had a small smile, bright eyes. The woman in front of me looked like a shell. "Sarah," I said, testing the name. "Sarah, where are you going? Knoxville is in the opposite direction." She looked ahead at the windshield and said something so quietly I could barely hear it. "He's waiting." For me, I felt a chill run down my spine. I don't know why. The way she said it, the empty tone, the certainty, something was very wrong. "Who's waiting for you, Sarah?" She didn't answer. She just kept staring straight ahead. I decided to try another approach. "Sarah, did you drink anything today? Did you take any medication?" "Nothing." "Are you hurt? Are you injured?" "Nothing." I started to consider the possibility that she was in shock or under the influence of drugs. I went back to the patrol car and called for backup on the radio. I said that there was a possible driver in psychological distress and that I needed a second unit to assess the situation. The dispatcher confirmed this and said that a patrol car was on its way, about 15 minutes away. When I got back to her car, Sarah wasn't crying anymore, nor was she looking ahead. She was staring in the rearview mirror, fixedly. So still, she looked like a statue. I followed her gaze, but saw nothing in the mirror except the dark road behind the car. "Sarah, what are you seeing?" She blinked once, slowly, Then she whispered, "He's in the back seat." My heart raced instantly. Instinctively, I took a step back and reached for my gun, illuminating the back seat of the car with the flashlight. Empty, completely empty. Not a shadow, not a jacket, nothing. Just the worn upholstery and some papers scattered on the floor. "Sarah, there's no one there." She kept looking in the rearview mirror. "He's right there. Can't you see?" I felt that cold again, stronger now. I thought about opening the back door to prove to her that no one was there, but something stopped me. Something that wasn't logical. It was instinct. I decided to wait for backup to arrive. "Okay," I said, trying to sound calm. "I'll need you to get out of the car, Sarah. Slowly. Can you do that for me?" She finally took her eyes off the rearview mirror and looked at me. And for the first time since I had stopped her, she smiled. A small, sad smile. That didn't reach her eyes. "He said you wouldn't believe it." "Who said that, Sarah?" She didn't answer. She just opened the car door and got out, so slowly it seemed like she was moving in slow motion. When she stood up, she staggered a little, and I grabbed her arm. It was freezing, like ice, not just cold. Even though it was a warm summer night in Tennessee, her arm was frozen. "Sarah, are you feeling cold?" She shook her head. "I always feel cold now." I guided her to the side of the patrol car where there was more light. The camera on my vest was recording everything, as was the patrol car's camera. Standard protocol. I asked her to lean against the car and stay there while I checked the situation. She obeyed without resistance. I went back to the sedan and looked inside again. Empty back seat, front seat with her purse that I had rummaged through. Nothing in the glove compartment except old papers and an owner's manual. The car smelled of mildew and something sweet that I couldn't identify. There were no signs of a struggle, blood, nothing suspicious besides the situation itself. I closed the door and went back to where Sarah was. She was still leaning against the police car, but now she was looking at the sky. The tears had returned, silently streaming down her cheeks. "You know," she said suddenly, "I used to look at the stars with my daughter. She loved trying to find constellations. We never managed to find any real ones, but we invented our own." That was the first normal thing she said. I grabbed onto it. "Do you have a daughter? How old is she?" She was 7 years old. Had passed. Shit. "What happened, Sarah?" She continued, looking at the sky. "It was a day like today. Clear sky, bright stars. We were coming home after visiting my mother in Nashville. It was late. I was tired. But Emma was so happy. She had received a teddy bear from her grandmother and wouldn't stop talking about how she was going to introduce it to her. Dolls. My stomach churned. I already knew where this was going. I didn't see the truck. Or maybe I did see it and didn't have time to react. I don't know anymore. I only remember the sound. That horrible sound of metal being crushed and glass breaking and... She stopped and swallowed hard. Her screaming. For a second, just a second. Then silence. I stood there, speechless. What do you say to a mother who lost her daughter in a car accident? Sorry? Everything will be all right? Nothing made sense. When was this? I managed to ask. 3 years ago. 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days. Her precision startled me. Sarah, why are you driving alone at this hour of the night? She finally looked at me again. Because today is the day, the 3rd anniversary, and he said that if I came here to the exact spot where it happened, I could see her again. Who said that? Him, the man in the back seat. I felt my skin crawl. I looked at her sedan again, still empty. Obviously, empty? Sarah, there's no one in your car. She smiled again, that sad smile. You keep saying that, but he's there. He's been there ever since I left home. He told me to come, told me Emma would be waiting, told me I just needed to get to that spot on the highway where it all ended. And where is this place? She pointed ahead into the darkness of the road. About 8 kilometers from here, mile 47, there's still a skid mark on the asphalt. I come here every year and the mark is still there, no matter how many times they repave it. I picked up the radio and asked where the support unit was, still 10 minutes away. Traffic on a previous call. Great. Sarah, I need you to listen carefully. There's no one in your car. You might be hallucinating because of the trauma, the stress, maybe some medication. It happens, but I need you to trust me and let me help you." She looked at me for a long moment, studying my face as if trying to decide something. Then she shook her head. "You're kind, but you don't understand. He promised, and I believe him." "Who is he? What is he like?" "Tall, very tall and thin. He wears an old black suit, the kind you see in old photos. His face it's hard to see properly. It's as if he's always in shadow, even when the light is shining directly on him." My mouth went dry. It was getting weirder and weirder. "And does he talk to you?" "He whispers. He whispers things about how Emma misses me, about how she wants to see me, about how I can be with her again if I just go there. Up to mile 47. Try." I took a deep breath. I knew I needed to keep her there until help arrived. I couldn't let her get back in the car and continue driving in that state, but I also didn't want to scare her or make the situation worse. "Sarah, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm worried. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want anything else bad to happen. So I'm going to ask you to wait here with me until another patrol car arrives and we can take you to a place where you can rest and talk to someone who knows how to handle this kind of situation better. Can you do that for me?" She looked at her car. She stared for so long that I thought she was just going to run over there and speed away. But she didn't run. She just kept staring. "He's waving at me," she said softly. "Through the back window. He's waving." I looked. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. "Sarah." "Okay," she interrupted me. "I'll wait. But when we get there, when we get to mile 47, you'll see I was right. You'll see her." I didn't answer. I just stood there beside her as the minutes slowly ticked by. The warm night wind blew occasionally, carrying the smell of hot asphalt and something else, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Sarah remained silent, gazing sometimes at the sky, sometimes at her own car. Finally, I saw the blue and red lights of the other patrol car approaching. I felt an enormous relief. The officer who got out was Mark Sullivan, a guy I'd worked with before. Good cop, cool-headed. I quickly explained the situation to him while Sarah remained leaning against the police car. Mark listened to everything, looked at her, then at me, and nodded. "I'll call an ambulance," he said quietly. "She clearly needs a psychiatric evaluation." I agreed. Mark went back to his patrol car to make the call, and I stayed with Sarah. She was strangely calm now, as if she had accepted something. "He's gone," she said suddenly. "Who?" "The man. He's no longer in the car." I looked at the sedan. It was still empty, as it always had been. "When did he leave?" "When the other car arrived, he just disappeared. But before leaving, he whispered one last thing." I waited. "He said, 'You're going to get me there no matter what. That no matter what I do or what you do, I'm going to end up at mile 47 tonight, because that's where I need to be." A chill ran down my spine. The ambulance arrived 20 minutes later. The paramedics assessed Sarah, who was now calm and cooperative. Normal blood pressure, normal body temperature despite her saying she was cold, pupils responding normally. Nothing physically wrong besides obvious signs of extreme stress and sleep deprivation. They decided to take her to the hospital in Knoxville for a full evaluation. She got into the ambulance without resisting, but before closing the doors, she looked at me. "Thank you for trying," she said. "But we'll see each other there anyway." The doors closed and the ambulance drove off, followed by Mark's patrol car that was going to escort it. I stood there on the shoulder of the road next to her abandoned sedan, feeling that unease you feel when something is profoundly wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on what it is. I glanced at the back seat one last time before having the car towed. Still empty. Obviously it was empty. It always had been. But then I saw, on the upholstery of the back seat, right in the middle, there was a mark, a handprint. 5 long, thin fingers pressed into the fabric, as if someone had pressed their hand firmly there. The surrounding fabric was damp, even wet, as if the hand had been cold and had condensed moisture. I touched the mark. It was cold, freezing. I picked up the radio and tried to call an ambulance, but I couldn't get through. I tried Mark. Nothing. Just static. I got in my patrol car and started the engine, determined to drive to Knoxville to make sure Sarah arrived safely at the hospital. I drove fast down Highway 64, passing mile markers 43, 44, 45, and 46. When I reached mile 47, I saw everything. The ambulance was stopped on the shoulder, its lights still flashing. Mark's patrol car was there too, but there was no one inside. I stopped behind them and got out, shouting the names of the paramedics and Mark. Total silence. In the middle of the track, illuminated by the white light of my headlights, was Sarah, standing motionless, staring at a specific spot on the asphalt, the skid mark she had mentioned was there, old and faded but still visible. I approached slowly, my hand on my weapon reflexively. "Sarah, where are the others?" She didn't answer. She didn't move. She was so still that for a second I thought she was a statue. Then she spoke, but not to me. "I knew you would be here." "Sarah, who are you speaking to?" She smiled. This time it was different. It was a real, genuine smile, full of love. "My baby, my Emma. She's right here." I looked around. Nothing but the empty road and the dark night. But Sarah was stretching out her arms as if to embrace someone, and then she embraced the void, literally embraced the air, closing her arms and pulling it against her chest, rocking gently as if she were cradling a child. "I love you so much," she whispered. "I missed you so much, so much." I took another step toward her, and that's when I noticed there were footprints on the asphalt, small, wet footprints that hadn't been there seconds before. Footprints the size of a 7-year-old child's, appearing out of nowhere and leading to where Sarah was standing. My heart raced. "Sarah, we need to get out of here now." She glanced at me over her shoulder, still smiling. "Thank you for caring, but I am where I need to be right now, with whom I need to be." "Sarah, please." She turned completely to face me, still holding the emptiness against her chest. "He told you not to be afraid. He said you'll understand someday." "Who said that?" Sarah pointed behind her to the other side of the road, and there, in the darkness beyond the reach of the lights, was a silhouette, a tall, thin figure, wearing something dark. I couldn't see the face, only the outline. The figure waved slowly, an almost polite gesture, before simply vanishing. It didn't turn around, it didn't walk away, it simply ceased to exist. When I looked back at Sarah, she was disappearing too. It didn't disappear suddenly like a magic trick. It was more as if it were becoming transparent, as if it were being erased little by little. I saw the road behind it for a second, then it was just an outline, and then nothing. I was left alone at mile marker 47 of Highway 64 with 3 abandoned emergency vehicles and absolutely no logical explanation for what had just happened. The paramedics and Mark showed up 15 minutes later, stumbling back onto the road from the bushes beside it. None of them remembered how they got out of the vehicles. They said they simply woke up, walking in the middle of nowhere. The cameras in the patrol cars and the ambulance, all of them, failed exactly at mile 47, just static, except for my vest camera. That one recorded everything. Sarah disappearing, her silhouette in the darkness, the wet footprints that vanished seconds later. Her car was towed, her driver's license was in the system. Sarah Mitchell had indeed lost her daughter Emma in an accident on Highway 64 3 years earlier. But when the police went to her home in Knoxville to notify the family about the incident, they found Sarah there, alive, asleep in her bed. She hadn't left the house that night. She had taken sleeping pills and had been there for hours. The Sarah I met on the road never existed. Or maybe she existed somewhere else, in some other version of the night. I don't know. The sedan I had towed disappeared from the impound lot before dawn. Nobody knows how. The security cameras show the car parked one moment and simply empty the next. No one taking it away. Just there 1 second and gone the next. I stopped patrolling Highway 64 after that. I requested a transfer to another region. No one blamed me. I watched the video from my camera more than 100 times trying to understand, but I never could. I only know that that night at mile 47, something beyond our comprehension happened. Sometimes I still think about her, about Sarah. The real Sarah or the one I knew, I can't tell. I think about Emma. I think about the tall man in the black suit. And I think about the last thing I heard before Sarah disappeared completely, whispered so softly it barely came through on the audio. But I heard it clearly standing there on the road. There is. Some debts need to be paid. Some meetings need to happen. And some places hold what has been lost until it is claimed. I never drove that mile again without feeling cold.